It's my privilege to introduce you Ted Doering, who is the Chief Digital Officer, and Myla Romero, Director of Information Technology from Emerson. And I think they have a very exciting presentation. I really, really like the first part of their heading, the art of the possible. I think that's very, very interesting. And also in relation to some of the presentation we had early on. And with that, I would really like to welcome Ted to present his thought on that.
Well, thank you very much. I hope that you all can hear me okay.
Yes, we can.
We're very excited to be a part of CLM Summit 2023. And joined with me is Myla Romero, my partner, and we're going to talk to you a little bit about Emerson's configuration management journey. This is a core capability that Emerson relies on day in and day out. And so we're going to share with you a little bit of background about Emerson first, and then get into some more details regarding our journey over the years and where we're headed into the future. So as you saw from that brief video, Emerson is an industrial automation company. We've been around for quite a long time. We primarily sell intelligent devices that are used to automate the supply chain and manufacturing processes for companies all over the world. We serve industries that range from energy, chemical, power and renewables, also life sciences and factory automation for discrete manufacturing as well. And we're very much focused these days on making sure that we're supporting sustainability and driving productivity improvements for all of our customers. We do about $13 to $14 billion in sales annually, so we're quite a large company with over 130 manufacturing locations all over the world. And when we think about our product configuration opportunity and challenge, it's really related to the scope and breadth of all the products that we have. We have over 200 product families, and that represents about 10,000 product configuration models. So we've been doing product configuration for quite a while, but right now we're kind of in a transition to looking towards the future and how we can modernize our foundation and move to the Configit platform to give us a lot of the benefits that we're hoping to achieve going forward. From a strategy standpoint, we segment all of our ways that we serve our customer into 6 different value streams. And this allows us to get that data organized in the right way for all of our systems so we can automate the business process from the very beginning when we're talking about doing sizing, selection, quoting, pricing, but then all the way through the supply chain, manufacturing, distribution, and even invoicing and collections process. So these 6 different value streams are how we focus on building out our business systems throughout Emerson. And as you can see in the top and the upper right, we have shaded red. Those are really where we're focused on making sure that we provide product configuration solutions. So a majority of our global sales are supporting products that are configured. Emerson really was an IoT company before the term IoT was even coined. We've been selling instruments and devices that get connected to control systems for a very long time. And we don't just sell those configured products. We also sell the project management services, engineering services, post-sales lifecycle support, as well as software that's used to manage the control systems and optimize the manufacturing processes. So all of this has to come together when we're processing quotes and processing orders, and it needs to come together in a seamless way using those value streams as kind of our major ways that we organize the data throughout the organization. So as I mentioned, we have over 200 product families with 10,000 configuration models. So this is quite an enormous library and footprint of data to keep organized and to maintain, in our configuration engine. We are also acquiring companies on a regular basis. So those companies come with new product configuration opportunities and challenges for us. Most cases when we're acquiring a company, the products, as you can imagine, don't always have all the information that we need to just move into a configurator. There's typically a productization transformation that's required. And so we've developed over the years this 6-step model for how we, in an agile way and iterative way, work over time to take products that don't have all this data organized and incrementally identify, pull together the information, and drive towards getting it all in the model that we need so that we can load it into our product configurator and have that customer experience that they're looking for. So at the bottom, the first step that we follow is to make sure that we have a very robust catalog taxonomy, that the product itself falls into, the whole overall overarching product catalog structure. Then secondly, we detail out the product matrix, so the features and options for that specific configuration model. And then we move on to enabling an engineer to order capability for that product. The next step would be to detail out the parts and operations. So this typically has to do with the manufacturing bill of materials or optional routing steps and the manufacturing bills of materials as well. Step number 5, typically many of our products also require some level of software configuration or have other attributes that need to be associated with the product at the time of order. And so we'll try to capture that information and make sure that it's validated and correct so that it can be automatically uploaded into the product in the manufacturing process. And then finally, we have sustainability and compliance attributes that we extend and add to these configuration models. All of this is, as I mentioned, is typically done in an iterative process. As you can imagine, when you're onboarding a new acquisition or have dozens of new models that can be very complex, we don't try to necessarily do it all at once. Usually steps 1 and 2 are the focus for our first phase, and then we move into steps 3 and 4, maybe 6 months later, and then in the last 18 months of an onboarding process, we try to drive and get the data that's listed there in steps 5 and 6. So we have been using a configuration engine for the last 20 some years, and it's served us well. But several years ago, we realized that we needed to look towards the future. And so we really thought about what were the most important objectives we had when selecting a new configuration platform. Some of the key drivers are listed here. One, we wanted to move to a tool that was ERP agnostic. As we do a lot of acquisitions, our ERP footprint is quite broad, as you can imagine, but we would like, and we do need to have a common configuration tool that can plug into many hosting ERP systems, quoting systems, and so on. So that was a key consideration for us in terms of business objective. We also wanted to make sure that we had a tool that allowed us to really have the customer user interface and experience that people have come to expect in 2023 and beyond. We also wanted to make sure that the platform was easy for our developers to maintain. Some of the legacy configuration platforms are not very easy. The way that you write rules, the complexity of the rules, all of that can contribute to taking a lot of time to keep these models updated. as well as not having as accurate of a configuration process as our customers and Emerson expects. The third bullet there is stability and performance. That was probably one of the key drivers for us. The tool that we had been using really was not delivering the performance that we need, especially when you think about the global nature of our customer base. Whether you're operating in Romania or China or the United States, everybody's expecting to have a fast configuration experience. And so we needed to make sure that we were looking at a technology that supported that global capability. So model maintenance and support, making sure that the platform was easy for our developers to use so they can make those changes quickly. And then supporting the whole productization methodology that I just spoke to in the prior slide. The Configit platform really, had a lot of capabilities that we felt supported the ways that we need to gather and manage that data on a day-to-day basis. So just a little bit more detail on our Configit selection factors. I spoke to some of the key features that we looked at, primarily ERP agnostic, having the offline capability and the modularity, the one single source of truth. Those are all very foundationally important aspects for us. The ability for the rule logic to handle all of the complex scenarios that Emerson has as a business. That is one of those differentiating capabilities that we found within the Configit platform. A very modern and flexible user interface. This was a criteria that really also separated Configit from a lot of the other selections and choices that we evaluated. Being able to support our future growth and knowing that we had a platform that was going to be scalable was a key consideration. And then finally, we did a lot of benchmarking, looking at what other companies were using, and had a lot of reference calls and got feedback from others that have been down this road and gone through this journey. So those are the 6 major areas that we focused on and that have led us to the adoption and rollout of the Configit platform. What I'm going to do now is hand off the presentation to my colleague, Myla Romero, who's leading this whole implementation effort on behalf of Emerson. So Myla.
Thank you, Ted. So I wanted to start with, going back to, we talk about the art of the possible. What we've experienced with this rollout, this implementation, is the possibilities. We started the Configit program a year and a half ago. It's a 3-year program, and our intent is to convert legacy and new models into this Configit platform. We do have different levels of maturity within the organization, so some currently had a configurated solution and others did not. So we're trying to address all of the different levels of maturity. So when we look at the art of the possible, we talk about what are the internal stakeholder possibilities. We had to look at reimagining our implementation approach as we got deeper into the program. And then I'd like to highlight some of our key successes and some of our future considerations. So when we speak to the art of the possible, this quote by Rajneesh Kasat really sums it up. It's where digital technologies can be leveraged in innovative ways. I know you saw in the opening, Emerson is very innovative. We look for ways to do things that haven't been done before, but we also want to make sure it's user-friendly and that we have products and services that are contextually aware. Looks like my clicker, there we go. So there was excitement and internal stakeholder possibilities. When we looked, why did we want to move to a new configurator solution? Ted touched upon a lot of this, but we wanted to be able to work with several types of ERP systems, make sure that we're agnostics. We wanted to look at the ability to build better and faster. A lot of the time of our users, the teams that built the products daily was spent just on reworking models when there were issues. We wanted to make sure that the performance was robust and stable. And a key part of what we also see with our current tool, which has improved, stronger ability to troubleshoot when issues occur. So we did find with Configit, based upon the functionality that we would be getting, it's easier to see if there's an issue and trace it back so that we can then figure out what the issue is and make it sure that our products are up and running, that we don't have downtime. We wanted to be able to grow with the company with any enhancements, just as we come up with new things. We've already in our journey, we've come up with some additional enhancements, and we found that Configit was willing and able to address those, the nature of our business, and support us and give us those enhancements. We wanted to be able to delight the customer. And when I say demystify configurations, we don't want you to have a secret decoder ring to figure out how to configure a product. So through this journey, we've been able to go through and demystify how you configure to make it easier to configure our products. And finally, wanted to address the pain points. We've mentioned those, so I won't go through those again, of the previous solution, mainly through performance and user interface. What you see here are some of the quotes from some of our users. We did do a survey before we went to the Configit solution across the organization. And so these are just some of the comments that we received from some of our users. Virtual tabulation is a game changer. It's a pioneering concept that Configit is very deeply committed to product configuration, and that they make it easy to share features. The UI is friendly. You guys are also Configit's a safe organization, so the ability to release functionality quickly was important to us. And it makes easy to look at how we actually do our product configurations and look at how we have better maintenance in years to come. So I spoke about this last year during the CLM Summit, but this is our end solution that we're looking at. We want to look at how we can combine Configit, the architecture within PLM, just how we can combine our systems so that we have a seamless experience. As we talked about, we have several layers of products supported in our PLM system that we then push through to Configurator. So this is how we envisioned our role and how the Configure solution will help us get there. So you'll have the Ace models where we have the families and features. Then you're able to configure it. We looked at how we built a BOM converter tool in conjunction with Configit, that then we can transform what we received from our PLM system into Ace and write the rules, which are a lot easier to write. And then you'll see the PLM in your left-hand corner about the option and choices, the BOMs, the parts. All of this is interrelated. Right now, we're focusing on Oracle EBS. This is not to say we don't have other systems. We do have other systems, but we're building this in such a way that we can share this information across the different ERP systems that we have. And all of this, we're looking for cloud-centric solutions because we are a cloud-first organization. So we're looking at all opportunities to leverage the power of cloud. So when we first started this program, we went in using a safe agile methodology. As Ted mentioned, we have 15 years plus of usage with the previous tool, so we had to rebuild the solutions from those tools into Configit. In some places, it was out of the box. In other cases, we did have to build some additional functionality. But we looked at our replacement lens using that safe model solution. What we found in our journey is because of the complexity of what we were doing, Configurator is not solely a configurator project. There's multiple touch points, multiple stakeholders. And so by pivoting to a large solution safe, we're able to have additional governance and traceability. So this has allowed us better communication mechanisms with the multiple business units and product families that Ted mentioned. We're no longer treating this. We initially treated it as a one replacement of the tool, but as we got deeper into the tool, there's just so many opportunities to refactor and do things differently that we didn't do in the past. Configit gives us an opportunity to do things better. And so we've been finding that, just feedback that we've been getting from the users, just people that approach us about when we're actually going to go live. This better supports change management, how we can better execute. We have cross-functional alignment between our quote, order management, and our online store. So this model allows us to ensure that as we're implementing this, that we have better visibility, better execution. And just to be transformative, that's what we want to do with this tool, is to be transformative. We have to make sure that we're being informative to all of our key stakeholders in this program. So here is where we're left with our Configit implementation roadmap. This is our high-level plan. Our focus right now, if you see where it says PI, that refers to our program increments, which is part of the SAFE program. We've been looking at our architectural integrations. This is the piece that has taken us the longest because of, again, the buildup of what we've done in the past and opportunity to do it better. So we're focusing on the architectural integrations, and that includes our quote, our order management. What's the design to support the end-to-end configure to order process in those three areas. We've also looked at our productivity tools. Through the years, we've built many productivity tools to support the users in our old system, and that includes allowing others or users to be able to build rules, automated rules. We have a BOM validation tool that before it actually goes to production, we talk about making sure we have accuracy, that we're able to validate the bill of material before it's actually released to the shop floor. And as a key part of what we're designing for the next year and a half, we're looking at QA. QA is very important, so we've strengthened our team for QA, just to make sure as we're releasing the different functionality that we're also testing in the three areas that I mentioned. And at each of these points, you'll see critical decision points indicated in the red diamond. We have those conversations that I mentioned with our stakeholders, and we do a check-in just to ensure that we're on track, or if there's anything that we can do differently, or if we need to maybe slow down a little bit, we get that important feedback. And then we're looking, if you see that the green star, that's when we will release models. It's a continuous release program, so we're not stopping anyone. If we have groups that are ready to release their models and they have the architectural integration and tools that they need, we do allow them to release those models. We do have a significant amount of models that we're releasing, so by doing this methodology, it does allow us to not do a big bang approach, but to do it incrementally with the releases. So our key successes, it has been a journey. We have learned a lot in the process. So I just we broke this down into several areas of our successes. So we have product data management, tools and automation, our architecture design, our user interface, and cross-functional engagement. So I'll start with product data management. This is an area, as Ted mentioned, is very important. It's foundational. So we actually established a team, product management services, that works with the business. That includes on the engineering side and the PLM side, because a lot of what we do starts first with that foundation and ensuring that those products are set and structured as they need to be before they're released, and then you actually use the configuration tool. So by working with the businesses, we've been able to create those foundations, much of which Ted touched on in the beginning, but that team is focused on that, and then we work very closely together to then release the products as they're ready. For tools and automation, we work with Configit to create that automated BOM creation, and that also has been a game changer in this, because it's going to allow for additional automation, putting all of these tools together. As part of the data management team, we also created an automated rule import from the PLM system to Configit. So that's another productivity for the users where they don't have to create that manually. It actually creates the rules from Configit as they're structured from our PLM system, and then we can push it into Configit for additional validation and then push it to protection. We've created a rule conversion tool to convert rules. We work very closely with Configit. That was part of our initial POC. And then we've also designed that, continue to upgrade and enhance that tool, so that will make it easy to convert the rules from our legacy tool into Configit. So we have seen with the models that we built, we've been able to use that pretty effectively. And then, as I mentioned, we have this mass BOM validation tool, and that allows to do mass BOM configuration test cases and then validate if they're correct before they're actually released. We've again focused on our architecture design. It's a very API-driven approach. We have best practices at Emerson, so through this program, we've been following those best practices as well as working with an API expert to ensure that we're following those best practices. And then for the user interface, we had workshops to just determine what does that user experience, what should that look like in the future. In the past, we had two user interfaces, one for internal and one for external, and we're trying to merge that concept and not say internal, external, but we just have a singular user interface. So we've been focused on what does that look like, getting feedback from our user groups, our other stakeholders, and we built a prototype of what that would look like. And then that in the future will integrate with our what we call our product advisor, so that that experience for the users is seamless between making a selection or getting advice on which product to select, and then feeding that into Configit. And so we have made that dynamic, just utilizing some modernized technology. And the final area, as I mentioned, configurator is not just a configurator project. We have engineering, we have configuration teams, we have our sales groups, and other groups that are involved in this program. And so what we wanted to do is just make sure that engagement is strong and strengthened. And so by utilizing the different tools and the concept of a single data type model, we've been able to have smoother handoffs between the teams, which is again allowed for better synergy and execution. So this was our first year in this program. We had a new team. Much of the team was not in place. We had a smaller team. As our focus shifted, we did grow the team to support key areas. It was the first time that we were actually using SAFe, and so we did look at how all this came together this first year. We had some lessons, but we were able to achieve. Of course, I won't go through all of this. Here's some of the key things that we did achieve. We have our dev stage and prod. We did do the setups just to ensure that we have the location set up for production. We still have to stand that up again. We set it up just so we can prove that we can. And all of this is in Azure. So we replaced this with our previous solution. We have upgraded to the Configit 6.0 upgrade. So we did, in the middle of our program, we got some additional functionality and capability that we weren't expecting. And it was very positive in nature, absolutely aligned with the roadmap for Configit. And then, as Ted mentioned, one of our challenges has been performance. In some of our areas, we are challenged with performance. And so we wanted to make sure ahead of the releases that we did test the models beforehand that we have built to ensure that we have benchmarking that meets our better, or at least at the same level that we experience today. The expectation is always better, of course. For integration, we looked at, you'll see our global online store, our global quote form, and we have a global sales order form. So those are the main tools and the focus of the program right now. We're looking at, again, the end-to-end CTO process. How do you invoke Configit what are the code object revisions that we have to look at and refactor from the previous tool, and then just migrating the BOM from Oracle, and then the migration from the new features and functionality that we have in Configit. And then the last portion of that is these are just some of the key productivity tools that we've created. I've mentioned before the BOM import tool, extracting the BOM, the BOM converter tool. And we have put together a curriculum, which we do have on our Learning Center within Emerson, and that will allow others that are new to Configit, whether you're someone who develops products on a daily basis or whether you're someone who just wants to know about Configit. We have designed some videos that we've Emersonized just to make specific to the types of products that we're building, so that will solidify the key concepts before people are able to begin designing the models. The final areas I'll speak to is we have a model checklist, and that's the end-to-end, how do you build a model in Configit? So we put what are those steps together in a document, and in the future, we'll hope to automate those actual steps so that the users will, give them some additional productivity. And we built archetypes. We built archetypes for each business unit that represents their models. So as we're going through a lot of these testings and these tools that we're building, we're using those archetypes. And then as we release different functionality incrementally, we do then release the models or the additional functionality on those BU archetypes. Future considerations. Going back to the art of the possible. That's why we're here. We wanted to have a tool that we can grow with in the future, that we can, as we grow with the tool. So one of the areas I'll start with is adoption. We do have, we are building a lot in this program. So what we want to focus on now is pivoting as we're finishing up what we're calling the ecosystem foundational and model foundational elements. How do we increase the adoption? And that starts with alignment to the business unit release plans. So we have talked to each of the business units that are that applicable to this program. We have their model release programs, and they have categorized their models on what are the models that might be lift and shift versus some they're more complex in nature, and that we have to do some additional work because they're a little bit more specialized. So we do have those, and we're aligning to those plans. One of the challenges we have that we're discussing, how do we mitigate this, is while we're building and implementing Configit, we do have BOM changes that are occurring every single day. Just the nature of our business, whether it's ETO or other changes. As we're making those changes, how do we make sure that when we release a model and Configit, that they're in sync? So that's just additional considerations that we're thinking through. How do we make sure that those are aligned so that we're not too far out of date? We can true up those models. The other thing that we need to do is, as we're building, we're establishing a lot of the enabler foundations, making sure that others have visibility to what we're building. A lot of what we're building now is not always the fun part of what we're that users want to see, but we make sure that we do frequent demos so that we can show them what's being built. But we also need to do more, just so that users can actually touch and feel and use those models and have an opportunity to use them and see how they work. And just focusing a lot more too on just change management, because this is a very big program and a very big change. Just focusing on how we can facilitate the change management and help the teams and groups as we move along. When we started our journey, SaaS, as we talked about, we're a cloud first organization. When we started our journey, SaaS was not quite available. So we are working in an Azure environment. We do have the opportunity to pivot to SaaS in FY24. So that's a conversation we are having with Configit, and what will it take to pivot so that we can use the SaaS version of Configit. And then we're also working on our yearly strategy for upgrades, because upgrades do occur twice a year. We've experienced it, already as we're implementing, just putting together that strategy, future strategy, and how we'll handle those upgrades and what makes sense as far as timing. And then the final area is advanced functionality. We have an opportunity to leverage additional functionality across the organization. Now we talked about market intent, which again gives us some capability in engineering intent. So those are two areas we haven't focused on yet in this opportunity. This just represents a fraction of what we're seeing. We have had the privilege of talking to the Configit product managers, so we do know what's coming, and that allows us to have the opportunity to think ahead and be forward thinking and look at how we can leverage these very powerful other functionality that Configit offers. So when we look at the art of the possible, I would say that we our journey is continuing, but we do have and are excited about the future and the capability that Configit will give us, and looking forward as we release our models in this program. So thank you for the opportunity to speak with you again at this summit.
Thank you very much, Ted and Myla, for doing this presentation and explaining to us and all the people who are following right now this CLM Summit, why you selected CLM to help you in your digital transformation and configuration project. Just to summarize, some of the key areas I looked at it was really that, to have the clear business objectives in place when you start such a project. That's very important. And also the customer satisfaction, things like cloud native product configurator, stability, speed of execution, etc. So these were some of the key points I picked up. Also to be agnostic platform, that's what you're looking for, due to multiple ERP systems and a multiverse environment you have. Some of the key success factors you mentioned was also the architecture, integration, modeling productivity. And for the future, what you're looking for is actually to have more adoption, the SaaS, and also advanced functionality. But there was just some, key points you mentioned during your presentation. We do have some questions, and I have a question. What is the size of the transformation team on Emerson side?
We have 30 contractors, and then our internal team is about 20. That's the actual SAFE team. And then we have the other teams that we work with the quote, order management, and global online stores, and they average about 50 per each of those teams.
Super. So I have a question for Ted here. Basically, in what way does the project you presented here supplement the digital transformation strategy that Emerson Corporation do have?
Yeah, so I think like many of the folks that are attending this conference, the configuration capability within our enterprise is really the digital nervous system. It's really the brains of our digital ecosystem. And so it represents the core of our transformation. And that's why this is one of the first areas that we decided to really tackle, because we felt that we would get the biggest benefit by focusing on this area as one of the beginning areas that we completely transformed. So I think it's recognized by the business leaders as well as all the key stakeholders that this is critically important to us and key to Emerson's success going forward.
Yeah. So basically, Ted, there are so many companies in the audience right now. What is your recommendation on how and where to start such a holistic cross-departmental initiative?
Well, you definitely need to engage the key thought leaders within the business and make sure that it is not an IT-led initiative, so that whoever is responsible for your digital strategy from a business perspective, you for sure want to partner with them, as well as the business leaders, marketing leaders, and engineering. Engineering is key because obviously they maintain and own a lot of the data in conjunction with marketing. And I think if you can build kind of that foundational grassroots, team, then you can really drive the changes throughout the organization to be successful.
That's perfect. Well, if you look at it, from that point of view, so how did you get the stakeholders excited about the new configurator? Change management, overcoming barriers, objections, etc. So how do you experience that part?
I'll let Myla. I think Myla's got some good examples of pulling people in and doing demos and that sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest thing is the current tool. It provided a lot. So it was a great tool, but there was also a buildup of what could we do. We in some ways outgrew the tool. So when we showed the functionality of Configit, the excitement was there already, and then we just enforced that excitement through showing the functionality as we're building, making sure it's incrementally shown to those stakeholders. And so I think the excitement, just because of some of the challenges we experienced in the past, they were ready for a tool such as Configit, and so that just made our way a lot easier. And then they the trickle down from the leadership to the different teams was there, and just continues.
So Myla, if you have to pick two benefits from your configuration lifecycle management project, the configuration project that you have, what would you highlight as a takeaway for our audience?
I'd say the user interface itself has been, I think, an excitement. It's given us flexibility that we haven't been able to do in the past, and just the ability to write rules and time savings from a user perspective. It's easier to write rules, and it's in a lot of ways more intuitive than we've seen in the past. And it's able to handle complex functionality that we haven't been able to handle in the past.
And the question
those
around
would be my takeaways.
Yeah. We did discuss a little bit before about the stakeholders with Ted as well, the question I had before. But what does it take to convince the stakeholders that a configuration platform is a paramount for top management?
Well, I'd say that it's generally well understood, especially within Emerson, given the fact that such a majority of our products are highly configured, highly engineered products. We literally have billions and trillions of possible permutations that can be sold, and the only way to manage that is to have a strong product configuration platform. So I think over the years, Myla and team have built up credibility and capability, not just with the tools, but also the business process that goes around managing the whole end-to-end configuration lifecycle management process. And so I think that it's not something that you can change overnight, but it is very important to educate the business leaders as to what the value of a configuration platform is to an organization, and then from there, pilot and show some successes, maybe on a small scale, and then that can go a long way to accelerating any program.
So basically, what do you see as the biggest challenge in such a large-scale project? Is that the implementation part, or is that the cross-organizational communication, or something other?
Well, I'll let Myla add on, but from my perspective, it's absolutely the fact that we have to continue to run the business day in and day out while we're making this change. And so on the scale that we operate as Emerson, the number of configurations that we do a day, all of those tools that are existing and that work in the past, those capabilities have to exist in the future state, and we can't, miss a beat. So it's really, how do you make that change dynamically as the business is running? That's been the biggest challenge. And so when Myla shared the product roadmap, or the project roadmap, really changing out those ecosystem integrations such that we can use the old configuration technology right next to the new configuration technology, and it's seamless to our users, because we're not going to be able to make the change for every model all at the exact same time. So we have to have this strategy where the two platforms can coexist for a period of time while we work through the full data migration And so that's probably been the biggest challenge. And I think now that we've overcome that, we see that the program, is really starting to accelerate.
With that, I would like to
Yeah,
really thank you both for participating and presenting in this year's CLM Summit. It was a very valuable presentation, and especially your thoughts around why you have selected configuration lifecycle management to make the art of possible. Thank you very much.